Hello, my name is Arthur, and in the last video I'd left off having made a fire animation for my character and determined that he was a little too small. So I went back and I remade the sprite sheet. I rendered some new images and I rendered him out of Blender at 128 by I'm not sure exactly the height he's ended up at, but the resolution I used in Blender was 128 by 64. And then in GIMP it was cropped to content again, so his resolution end to end is about 122. And I'm not sure about the up down resolution, it's somewhere around 40, somewhere in that range. But he sits much better, and I've assembled this guy because it was a little bit problematic, and I remade a couple of videos where, yeah, I struggled with it a little too much, so I'm just going to review this guy instead of building him on video. It's no different than building the player character. He's made with a kinematic body. This is his collision shape, so it's lined up with the floor and more or less with his body, so he can't walk into things too much. And then he has a damage zone on top. That's this zone up here. This one is for the player to be able to jump on him. So the player can kill him by jumping on him. And that zone is not as long as his physical collision shape, so that the player cannot walk up behind or in front and inflict damage. The only way damage can be inflicted is by landing on his back. So for his graphics, this is where I ran into problems. He has a sprite, an animated sprite, and then that animated sprite has a child animated sprite, and the child animated sprite is the fire graphic. The second animated sprite is his head. I haven't actually determined exactly how this will work. These ones probably won't be here, is my guess. So when this one plays, what will happen is he'll open his mouth. At the end of that playing, his fire animation would play. So let's get the fire animation up here. Yeah, after his fire animation played, I think I would play it backwards, and that would close his mouth. So if it played in reverse, and let's get the right sprite up here. If it played in reverse, what's going on with that? His mouth would just close. So basically he would shoot his fire and then his mouth would close by playing the animation backwards. So where the problem actually came in was in sorting out his head and his body, because his body and his head are two different items, right? So his head is an animated sprite, his fire is an animated sprite, and it's a child of the head, because in the animation player, when we make the guy walk, his body goes up and down. So what I actually had to do was to animate him frame by frame for the position of his head. What I did was I lined up the center point, the origin of the sprite for his head. This is the pink center point is bobbing up and down. I lined it up with each frame of the animation and keyed in the position. We can see the animation is playing in the position of the animated sprite. Then the trick to actually getting that to work, because at first that didn't work and the head was kind of bouncing around, and that's what kind of caught me up and caused me to, well, have to remake a video where I'm just explaining how it works. What hung me up was right here, the interpolation mode. Typically Godot is set to linear interpolation, which we can see the linear interpolation. The body is and the head are moving at different paces, even though the positions are very close in the way that I animated them frame by frame. So it's just not coming across quite right. But when I change the interpolation to nearest, then I get an action where the head is staying with the body and the actual position animation is cooperating with the Blender animation. So in the next video, we'll start looking at scripting this guy and figuring out exactly how he's going to work. And yeah, the question would be in his fire, how to have the fire know that it hit the player. So maybe that would be up to an area, or maybe a ray cast would work the best. So something along those lines, and we'll get him moving in gravity and get him walking along on the first level and able to kill the player and the player able to kill him. So that's what I'm looking at for the next video, maybe 2 videos, and until then, take care.